Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Fin Factor. I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
This is episode 164. Aaron, we only had 2 games for the Sharks this week, but there's actually quite a bit to talk about. Before I get to any of that, though, I did notice a tweet here, and I know Super Producer Jason hates tweets, and we didn't give him this tweet. But I do want to call this out because it's a regular on the show. Nicholas Egan says, sometimes you need to share your misery of a bad season with other fans. The Fin Factor is the best place to commiserate together and be hopeful for the future. Wow. Nicholas Egan, thank you so much for that tweet. That was awesome. And the reason that we don't have that is he just sent that out, I think.
That was a little while ago.
It was a little while ago.
Yeah.
We could have got it in there, but whatever. Anyway, hey, I see a couple guys in here already. Tyler McElroy wants to talk about Tolvanen. We'll get there, I promise you. Rob Thomas is giving us the Metallica horns there. Oh, there it is. There's the tweet. See, Super Producer Jason's on ball. I love it. This is why we have him here. He's amazing. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much. Guys, feel free to put your comments and whatnot inside of the comment section there. We'll be talking about some stuff from the games this week, other things like Tolvanen and whatnot, I'm sure. So any of that comments and questions, feel free to throw them in there. Always, of course, if you do it with a super chat, we'll 100% get to that comment or question. So if you want to support the show doing it that way, you certainly can. There's also Venmo you can use at the Fin Factor. That's another great way to support the show and get your question asked on the air. So go ahead and hit us up with any of those ways to communicate, or just put it in the chat. We'll probably get to it. So anyway, Debbie Smith saying, hello all. Hello, Debbie. It's great to see you back. Hope you're doing well tonight. Okay, the Sharks and Canucks played. This was, again, just for me, exactly what this season is supposed to be for the Sharks, a 6-5 overtime loss, right? So we didn't get the 2 points. We still get 1. Okay, cool. But, it's an exciting game, Aaron. They score 5. They let in 6. It's unfortunate you pick up the loss, but at the same time, man, that was a good, exciting game.
It's 11 goals in the game. How can you complain about that, right? Granted, the Sharks did not win, but it was heavily entertaining. Even the overtime, right before Vancouver had scored, the Sharks had 2 point blank chances that who was it? Spencer, is that his name? The goalie, just stoned him on, and then the puck went back the other way, and of course they scored because that's the Sharks season. But I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Lead changes, tying it, like everything was going on. So entertaining game, and the Sharks get closer to Bedard. So I'm happy about it.
Debbie Smith doesn't look too happy. She's giving the emoji with the face palm there. I don't know. There you go. Yeah. She even used the lady emoji too. So, okay, there you go. Couture gets the Sharks' first shorthanded goal of the season. Again, there was a little bit of everything in this game. It was a fun, entertaining game to watch, despite the loss. So, Aaron, shorthanded goals. Why is it you think the Sharks have only gotten just the 1? And obviously, Couture getting it, that makes sense. He's been so prominent on the penalty kill and whatnot. And of course, he's still an offensive force to be had. So why do you think that the Sharks have taken this long in the season to finally pick up a shorty?
I don't know. I mean, shorties are kind of hard to gauge. It's just one of those things. I think, they've had chances. It's not like they're not trying. And to me, I feel like they've been putting more of an effort in to get shorthanded chances or goals than they have in the past. So I think they realize that their PK is elite. Even right now, like they're letting in goals, but it's still pretty elite in the league, and might as well press and utilize that, blocking those shots and turning them around the other way for quick counterattacks. It just so happens that Couture finally put it away, and he barely did too. I don't know if you saw this goal, but it trickled. Like I think he went 5-hole, and he skated by, and he's looking. He's behind the goal, and he's looking, and like you could see it just slowly trickling through. And I think. Oh my gosh, I keep blanking on this goalie's name because he's not there. Spencer Martin. He looked like behind him, and I think when he turned to look, his skate kind of hit it into the goal, and so he scored the goal. So it was, even though they scored, it was barely a goal, barely a shorthanded goal, but it was fantastic. It's just one of those luck things, kind of like for shorthanded stuff. You have to make sure that you get a good scoring chance, but also don't get caught up too far, because then the power play could counterattack with obviously it's going to be an odd man break no matter what. So the Sharks just haven't been fortunate enough to get one until now.
And this game, we see a couple guys we don't normally get to see. The doctor's in the house, Dr. Seuss. It's actually Cease CJ Cease is how you pronounce it. But he gets a draw into this game. I don't know. Do you think maybe he had a pretty decent game? We can talk about that in a bit here. But Kakinen actually gets pulled in this game, and we get the first appearance of Maki Niemi. So he gets his first draw into the league here. So what do you think? First of all, did just bump my mic there? What do you think about Cease getting to jump into the game here? And then same thing with Maki Niemi. He gets his first look. I think for me, when Kakinen is not looking good, and obviously Dell hasn't really worked out in the game or two that he's gotten in there. So yeah, why not give the guy a look?
Yeah, give him a look. I mean, I'm looking at his ice time, and it was only 5 minutes and 50 seconds. So it's not like he was out there for a ton of shifts. But I think this is a reward for him playing so well and being effective down at the AHL, the Barracuda level. So they need to call somebody up. They had a couple injuries, and a couple guys are out. I think Sturm came back, but who sat out in this one? I think it was Barabanov was in. Some other guys that were out, so they had some holes in the lineup for the forwards, and they plugged them with Cease here. So good for him to get the call up. I think this is his first game, right? His first NHL game. So yeah, it was. It's good for him to see him get rewarded. Happy, but actually, it's his 5th career game, but the first one with the Sharks.
So Kevin Labanc shuts me up a little bit here. He gets a snipe. But actually, you know what? I don't even want to say he shuts me up, because what was I saying about him, right? I was saying I feel like he should be the trigger man. And then lo and behold, here he goes pulling the trigger again. And we'll get to something that I believe it was Brett Hedican had said about Kevin Labanc a little bit later on in the show. But for now, we'll just say, hey, he shoots, he scores. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to see Kevin getting on the score sheet there. It's a lot better than him being on the score sheet, just being in the box all the time, which again, we'll get to that stuff a little bit later on. In fact, we do have a clip here. It's kind of related, maybe talking about defensive breakdowns and transitions. Do you want to set this one up?
Sure. This is Coach Quinn kind of asked about, I'm trying to remember what the actual question and how it's posed, but he kind of talks about the defensive breakdowns and the transitions going from the team figuring out if they needed to be on offense or defense or vice versa. So here's kind of what he breaks down to it after the game, after this Canucks game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we need all our lines to be better defensively. You can't be giving up the number of goals we've given up. And, it just, you guys watch. I mean, we're in their zone, they're going to score. I mean, it feels like it happens way too easily for the other team. And, our problems arise when, our game is at times very indecisive. Are you on offense or you're on defense? And when those situations arise, we're assuming offense when you need to assume defense. Those flip pucks, 2 of them were flip pucks. And we're thinking we're going to get it and go the other way instead of doing our jobs until we gain full possession. And, that's something we got to keep working on.
That sounds like, to me, man, he sounds like such a scary coach. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be on his bad side ever. He just seems like one of the, I don't know. I get that like very principal feeling from him, like going to the principal's office and you're just like,
he sounds reasonable though, right?
He does. There's nothing wrong with what he said. It's just the tone of his voice, I guess. I don't know what it is.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Sharks assumed offense in the next game here. The Sharks-Ducks 6-1 win. There's a game where there's 6 going in the net, and the Sharks come out on top of it this time. How about that, huh? And speaking of Maki Niemi getting his first NHL appearance, he finally gets his first NHL start. And, of course, since it was a 6-1 win, his first NHL win. So he's batting 1,000 there. Yeah, tell us about Maki Niemi here. For a lot of folks, they haven't heard of this guy before. Obviously, he was part of the Brent Burns trade with Lawrence coming over. But give us a little bit of a rundown on him. Just go ahead and take it away.
Sure. This is part of the package that came back for the Brent Burns trade to Carolina. He was a 4th-round pick by Carolina in 2017. He was playing really well down at the Chicago Wolves for the AHL. I want to say it was the end of last year, end of 2021. But he had a back injury and eventually had to go under the knife and get surgery and get it fixed. I don't know exactly what it was. I couldn't figure it out, but it's kind of scary when you're that young and having back surgery, especially playing hockey, playing NHL, or he wasn't quite NHL level, but going to be. That's a hard injury to come back. So he finally is back, and he finally got his first NHL start. Now, 23 years old for a goalie is very, very young, and you must be like some kind of phenom or be on a pretty bad team to get a call up or emergency in a way. So don't expect this guy to be, to me, I don't think he's going to be sticking around the NHL level. He still has a lot of work and is going to need to get his game even better than it is now. It's great that he was called up. I'm not saying anything bad against him, but just to give you a reference point, like the only goalies in the NHL in the last, let's say, 20 years that have came up while they were by 23 have been like Carter Hart in Philadelphia. I think he was 21. Just like very highly touted prospects, this is not one of those. What's his name in Montreal? Carey Price. The bigger name goalies that have a huge pedigree that were taken in probably the first or second round. Those are the kinds of guys that you'd be seeing doing well in the NHL level. So I don't expect him to be up. I mean, I'm very happy he got his win. He looked very good. I thought he looked sharp. The one goal he did give up did look kind of bad. That was to Zegras. I feel like that was one he should have had because he wasn't quite screened on it, and it looked like it just kind of squeaked through him. So good for him to kind of get to the NHL, play well, get the win, get the experience of, holy cow, these guys move a lot faster than the AHL guys and have better shots than the AHL guys. But I fully expect him to be sent down at some point. And once Reimer is back, and unless they keep him up, keep Reimer and Makiniemi, and they send, which is what I heard online too, like they send Kakinen down, which would be interesting because he would have to clear waivers, and I don't know if he would clear waivers, that kind of thing. But we'll talk about waivers later. Yeah, that's Makiniemi. It's good. It's a good goalie to have in your pipeline, and he's playing well for the Barracuda. So it's hopeful, but I don't expect this guy's not going to be like a 60 game starting goalie in a couple of years. He might be a 1A, 1B, maybe a backup goalie. We'll see.
Before we continue, I want to go ahead and ask you guys, if you can, please hit us with the retweet, hit us with the like. If you're enjoying the stream so far, hit us with the share on whatever the social platforms you guys are on. Get us out there to your other Sharks friends and family. If you're enjoying the show, I'm sure they'll enjoy it just as much, and you get to talk with them inside of the chat, which is always fun. So if you could do that, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for that. Okay, Aaron, last week, I think we talked about there were only 3 players left on the Sharks roster that did not have a goal. It was Harrington, Vlasic, and Megna. Of course, all defensively minded defensemen or guys who'd only had a couple of games, right? So Harrington decides, you know what? I don't like that list. He scores a goal, puts one in. Aaron, talk to me about this one. It was a broken kind of a goal, was it not? The shot just kind of hit. I think it hit off a player and went in or something, right? It was an ugly one.
It was the Ducks defenseman. I think it was Cam Fowler. It hit kind of like right in the middle of the shaft of his stick, and it broke his stick. So it probably didn't hit. It didn't go like through his stick. Probably just hit it just enough. Hit it, changed the angle slightly on the puck, and it fooled Gibson. But it broke his stick as it went in. So you see the shot go, and then you see the stick kind of explode, and then it goes in the goal. So, yeah, you have to watch it on slow-mo on the replay. It's kind of like, wow, what happened there? Why is there a broken stick on the ice all of a sudden? Because he was still holding his stick after it broke, or the top half of it. But, yeah, it's just kind of a weird play. But they don't ask how, just how many, right, at the end of the year. So he got his first goal finally. He's on the score sheet.
I was just going to quote you on that one. Just say the same exact thing. Who cares how it goes in, buddy? You got an NHL goal. Good for you. Carlson, on the other hand, league leading 12th goal and 37th point. And this is by defenseman, I'm sure. My goodness. Carlson's on an absolute tear. If there is one shining bright spot this season, I think even the Carlson haters have to admit Carlson has been absolutely amazing this year. You know what? Even off of the score sheet, when I was just watching the game, just seeing the way that he moves and he moves the puck, his vision on the ice, whether or not the teammate that he passes the puck to is able to finish, he's still doing such an amazing job on the ice that it's absolutely ridiculous. just how good this guy is, right? And you see how he used to play the game right back in Ottawa, and then he's had some injuries and whatnot in San Jose. Okay, I got it. He looks like he's 100% back to form. Like this guy is absolutely 100% back, full force, ready to play. And it doesn't matter who he's playing with. He's giving them opportunities, doing such a phenomenal job in the ice. I've been very, very pleased with his play offensively, but defensively as well. He hasn't exactly been a slouch, in my opinion. Now, I'm sure there are numbers that might say otherwise, but just from the eyeball test, he looks great in all aspects of the game. I've been more than happy with him. So I know you've got a little bit here you wanted to bring up about him. So go ahead and fire away. And there was the nearest guy defenseman points wise is Rasmus Dahlin. I think is it
yeah.
Right? 5-point lead. Go ahead, fire away.
Yeah, Dahlin's got 32 points to Erik Karlsson's 37. Now, granted, Karlsson's played a few more games because the Sharks have just played more games than most of the teams, but that's still a substantial lead over practically everyone in the league. So everyone, I think people are waiting for him to kind of tail off, and he's not. He's still continuing in being hot. And this is what I was hoping for after that Burns trade, is clearing up that space. He's now the man on the back on the power play, getting most of that power play time. And even outside the power play, his playmaking skills, his skating, his passing, everything is very elite. And he seems healthy. So it's all coming together for Karlsson. Maybe he's motivated to play really well again, to be on the move, because that is seemingly everything anyone wants to talk about now that he's hot is he should leave the Sharks and the Sharks should get something from him or for him. So that was what they were talking about actually. So this is a nationally broadcast game. And there's a question here from Tyler. What do you guys think about this Leah Hextall? Leah is the play-by-play for ESPN. This game was on ESPN Plus. I forget who the color commentators were, but so many people complain about her. I think everyone is. Randy Hahn is special. He is amazing and award-winning play-by-play. It is really hard for anyone else to come into not that you're stepping into his shoes, because it's a nationally broadcast game, but just to do a game when it's not Randy, it's really hard because he's been around forever. He's very good. But I think she is fine. I think doing a nationally broadcast game is harder because you have to learn every team's players. You're not used to, like Randy is used to, obviously he's going to know all the Sharks, but he's used to most of the division and most of the teams. Like, he doesn't have to worry about, the New York Rangers other than twice a year. So the nationally broadcast ones are thrown to all these different games all the time. I think they do a phenomenal job. They're not biased either way for or against the Sharks. And I think that's kind of a problem. Not that Randy is either, but I think people just don't like change. That's part of it. I think she's fine, and people need to back off on her already. Jeez. Anyway, there's my rant. So after this game, I kind of hung around on ESPN because I wanted to see what they wanted to talk about in the post game, and most of it was how Karlsson is amazing and how any contender, I think the quote was something like how any contender is going to want him on their team because he's a right-handed puck-moving defenseman who is playing at an elite level. Then they're kind of like, well, he's got this contract that's kind of hard, but with the cap moving up and there's some teams that can make some space, it could happen. So I'm like, wow, this is nationally people are talking about it. It's not just, I guess, Sharks fans or Ottawa fans wishing that he was probably back on their team right now. So yeah, that's kind of like, I think that's what all we're going to hear about through the trade deadline. If he's not moved by the trade deadline, I think we're going to hear some very angry, pissed off people as well for not moving him, and that Greer's not doing enough.
It's kind of interesting that national broadcasts are even talking about the Sharks actually, because usually that's just not the case. It's always Leafs Nation, whatever else, right? But I mean, obviously, you've got a player of that caliber, and other teams are, like you said, the vultures are out, right? They want this guy if they can afford him and if they can fit him on their team. So it's something that they're going to talk about on a national level. Sure, absolutely. It's just interesting because normally the Sharks they're not interesting enough to that group, right? So right. It was kind of cool to hear them talking about that. Now there was a part of the game that you said late in this game you had a little bit of criticism on. You saw Hurdle Meyer line out there late, and you felt that that was a mistake, that they shouldn't have been out there when the score was the way that it was. Why don't you explain that one just a little bit for folks who maybe don't understand the reasoning behind that?
So Benito scored an empty netter. The Ducks had pulled their goalie super early because they were down by 3 goals. So I think it was, I want to say 3 minutes and change. Benito just shot the puck out from his own zone once he got a hold of it. Could have iced it, but I'm glad he did this. Didn't play it safe. Like, shoot for goal. Whatever. You're up by 3 goals. If you ice the puck and they score a goal, you're still up by 2. It's fine. So I like it when they take chances. I wouldn't like it if it was only a 1-goal lead, but he did score. So now it's 5-1. 5-1 with 3 minutes left. Do you send out your top line? No, you shouldn't be sending out top line. I think that's why Anaheim was mad. Now, it's kind of like an unwritten rule. Now, to me, I don't care about unwritten rules. I think it's stupid. I'm not arguing for the unwritten rule. I'm arguing for what will happen because the other team will take offense to it and might hurt them. And this is kind of like, not that they hurt them, but they were getting testy. They were getting mad. And Hurdle and Meyer kind of got into it with some of the guys because they were trying. Like, they weren't just dumping the puck in to waste time. They were trying. They were actively going in, getting shots on goal. Like, I think he made a power move in front of the net, and it wasn't even Gibson at that point. It was Stolarz, like, made the save, like, and they got into his face. And think about if it was the other way around. If the Sharks are losing 5-1 at this point, and they're playing, let's say, Anaheim, and Zegras tries to do the Michigan move, would you be mad about it, or would you be like, oh, that's just part of the game? You know, you just flip the script and see how you feel. That's how Anaheim would feel. So for me, I don't think Quinn should have sent them out there because they could have gotten hurt. They could have gotten in a fight, like where they would drop the gloves and maybe, you know, they could break a hand. Who knows? Or they could get concussed. They get knocked out in a fight. So just something stupid can happen. You should have just kept your 4th liners in there. The next shift, he put the 4th liners out there, and they get, I don't think it was quite a fight, but they get into a scuffle, go into the box, whatever. Now, the Sharks later in the game, what was it, a minute left? I got to look up the time here. Lorentz scores a goal with 3 or 4 minutes left. It was pretty much the next shift, I think, and make it 6-1. So they scored an empty netter to make it 5-1. Then they scored another goal to make it 6-1 on the goalie. So it was starting to get out of hand. Like, why would you put those guys out there? That's to me, like, I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm upset with Quinn. I'm kind of questioning his decision to send those guys out there. Well, what's your take on this?
Honestly, like, and you said to put it the shoe on the other foot, or the skate on the other foot, I guess you could say. I'm in that boat when it's more like a younger league, like the house league, the kids and stuff. When one team's blowing the other team out, you start telling those kids, hey, slow it down. Let's try to make 3 passes. I've seen it before where a kid tried to do the Michigan. Actually, it was my kid who tried to do the Michigan and threw the puck clear over the net because he just doesn't know what he's doing. And the ref put his hand up and said, unsportsmanlike conduct, you guys are up by like 8. You don't need to try that stuff. So he threw him in the box, and, you know, he didn't understand at the time. I explained it to him afterwards, and then he's like, he kind of laughed about it, like, okay, fine, whatever. But in those leagues, I get it. In the show, no, man, like you play, I think, but that doesn't mean you put out your best players when you're up by 5 goals. I'm with you there. I think it's, you know, again, there's a propensity to have an injury against a team that has been frustrated, that's maybe had enough of getting scored on, and they see a guy who's going hard to the net, and it's like, dude, you're already up by 5. You do not need to crash the net and bang the goalie's glove or whatever else the case is, right? You don't need to be doing that. You're going to win this game. Just, you know, relax. We're not trying to kill you, so just don't try to kill us, that kind of thing. It's almost like one of those unwritten fighting rules, you know, but it's just like playing the game, essentially. So I don't know. I see it as you still play and you keep going for the next goal regardless, right? I mean, think about when Boston played Toronto. Don't you think Toronto should have gone for that next goal instead of getting, you know, 3 or 4 scored on them straight, and then they lose and they get bumped out of the playoffs? So that's kind of the way I see it, is you keep going. Now, who you throw out there and ask to keep going, maybe that's a little bit different, but the mindset has to be, hey, we're still playing this game. They could still come back and score on us. We could still lose this. et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think the mentality is wrong. I think you might be on point, though, with regards to the personnel that you throw out there. Oh, Debbie Smith was a little bit confused here. She says, what's a Michigan? I've never heard that term. Debbie, it's a play. It's called the lacrosse goal. It was scored by Mike Legg first. It's called the Michigan because Mike Legg played for the Michigan Wolverines. Basically, what happens is he gets it behind the net, puts it on the blade of his stick, picks it up and scoops it, and then he throws it in like he's got a lacrosse stick. So you'll hear it being called the lacrosse style goal, the Michigan. Some people call it the Svechnikov, not our Svechnikov, the other Svechnikov, his brother. he is the first person to do it in the NHL. So there's lots of different names for it. I'm sure if you looked up Michigan goal on YouTube or Google or whatever, you'd certainly find a clip of it. So that's what that is. So just so you're aware, I'm glad we're able to help people out with this one, Aaron. That's a little bit of hockey education here. This is great. So a guy who did score a goal wasn't a Michigan again, Kevin Labanc. You say you want to give credit where credit is due. Okay. So I'll let you go through the stats, but before we do that, I do want to call out the first thing that I wrote down about this topic, and it was when he scored the goal, and it was, oh, you're welcome, Debbie. It was the first thing that I decided to jot down. I was pausing, rewinding, play, pause, rewind, play. So I made sure I had it word for word. This is from Brett Hedican. He says, and something clicked inside Kevin Labanc's brain this year. He knows now that he's a sniper. And when he gets opportunities in the slot, he's no longer thinking pass, which is good for him because that's his asset, is that shot. I told you so, Aaron. I told you so. I didn't want to say it, but I'm saying it. I told you so. This guy, for me, is not a setup guy. And for people to try to use him, or other coaches and other schemes to try to use him as that, I think has been a mistake. The passing it backwards off the boards to Brent Burns thing, yeah, he got assists and that's great. But that's not a true setup guy. That is a basic get the puck back to the point, right? Anybody can do that. When you're talking about a setup man, for me, that is the Erik Karlsson vision. That's the Joe Thornton vision, right? Guys who can see the play beyond the play, right? They see that open passing lane, but there's nobody there, but someone's skating that direction. I'm going to thread it through. That's the kind of guy that I think is like the setup guy. And for me, Kevin Labanc just isn't that. When I look at Kevin Labanc, I see him shooting off of either leg very well, very accurately. And I think that's where he's best used. And I love what Brett Hedican said here. And it says, when he said, he knows now that he's a sniper. It's like, oh, I've been doing this wrong the entire time. I should just be shooting the puck more often. And to that line of thinking, the stats you're about to go over just kind of reinforce that point. So go ahead.
Sure. I think part of it is a confidence thing too. His confidence, I think, is up that he can score in the NHL. And these snipes are amazing, by the way. If you haven't seen his last, I would say, handful of goals, most of them are in the absolute top corner of the goal. Practically no goalie's going to say this. So this is the stats for his past 9 games. He's had 3 goals and 5 assists, 8 penalty minutes, all of those pretty much stick infractions. Only 1 power play and 1 power play goal and 1 power play assist. So it's not coming from the power play. 18 shots on goal, so 2 a game. But he's a -2 combined. That's interesting to me, which we'll get into that. He has a 4-game point streak right now. And in those 9 games, he scored a point in 7 of them. So it's not like they all came from 1 or 2 games. He's consistent. He's on pace for 48 points. That's pretty good. I think that's the Kevin Labanc that he's getting paid for, a little bit under. He needs to be a little bit better than that. But his best season was the 2018-19 season, where he had 17 goals and 39 assists. So he had 56 points. That's a 0.68 points per game. This is probably the best way to tell if he's on that kind of pace. He's dropped since then. This season, he is at, right now, 0.59 points per game. So he's similar to that season, not quite. He's just shy of getting to that 50 point on his current pace, but he's also hotter now than he was when he started the season. So there's a chance that he could eclipse the 50 points this season. And that is going to bring me to the roll call for the week, or for today. The roll call question is, do you think Labanc breaks the 50-point barrier this season? So tell us where you're watching from, what city you're in, and do you think he's going to break that 50-point barrier? Now, he's getting paid because he's a scorer, like a not just a goal scorer. He was a playmaker too. He's a good player on offense. His weakness is playing the 200-foot game. And for a while, he was not scoring. And so when you're not scoring, your weakness gets bigger, or it's in the spotlight more. So I think that's why he's become kind of a punching bag, both on our show and I think by a lot of fans. So I do want to give him credit when credit is due. He's performing. I think he's playing better. I think he's trying to get into more of a kind of leadership role here. And we do have a clip here of him. And this is funny. I'm going to set this clip up. This is the clip asking him about kind of the defensive part of his game and his line, not just him, but his line. So Paul and I talk about this all the time, mainly Paul, about team defense. So here is LeBanc on working on their other line, working on their defense.
Yeah. I mean, I think for our line, it's not the offense, it's more the defense. So, it's just we're creating chances 5-on-5, but we just got to make sure we're taking care of the puck in all three zones.
It's a very short quote, but that was also the
Aaron,
longest quote of LeBanc.
I think we know what we need to do, Aaron. I think we just need to take care of the puck in all three zones. That's what we need to do.
I sent this clip to super producer Jason to clip it, right? And he goes, "That's a really short quote." And I go, "Yeah, that's the longest one in the entire session of all the questions that he was asked."
I just think that we need to take care of the puck in all three zones, Aaron. Dude, if you know that that's what you need to do, then why aren't we working on that? Like, why is it? I don't know. Maybe they are working on it. They're just terrible at it. Maybe that's all there is to it. But you would think that if that's something that you, like Zinksy says, Bedard, and just, okay, thank you. I guess that's why, man. Maybe he's in the same boat. I don't know. But goodness gracious, man. Like, if you know that that's the problem, that's what I always tell my boys too. Like, for anything in life, really, if you know that you suck at this one thing, then maybe you should stop working on the things that you're really good at and work on the thing that you're terrible at, right? It's a good way to fix that problem, right? You're not going to lose the stuff that you're good at just because you're working on something else, right? So I would wish that Kevin and his line mates would heed the advice, the defensive advice that the coaches are giving them. But I mean, again, for me, it's not, you don't even have to be, a heavy hitter to be able to separate guys from the puck. You just have to be smart about your angles and skating through the hands, taking the stick away, stick to stick, body to body, basic stuff like that. And you just don't see that kind of stuff out of these guys. And it's just a shame because honestly, it doesn't take much to tweak the way you play just a little bit to add that amount of pressure that makes the other guys screw up. You don't have to bash them through the boards. You just have to be a force of pressure for them, right? Something that makes them feel like, I got to get rid of the puck, right? And more often than not, when someone's moving the puck, that's where they're going to have, the turnover, the bad pass, it flubs or bounces or whatever else. You don't even have to necessarily do anything yourself other than apply that pressure. And just doing that oftentimes is enough. But you just don't see it out of these guys. And when they do run up on somebody, it's like, well, are you really a threat? And for Kevin LeBanc specifically, I just don't see him as that big of a threat, which is unfortunate. So I'd like to see more out of him. I'm not expecting him to go out there and bang bodies or anything like that. I'm realistic about it. But there are little things that you can do to fix your game defensively. Maybe not fix, but at least enhance it without getting rid of the offensive upside for your line. So I don't know. I'd like to see more out of Kevin. At the same time, again, just like you, I got to give credit where credit's due. He is doing a pretty decent job of, putting the puck in the net, being offensively minded and generating. So I can't really say too much about it. At the same time, I see somebody else that just said something about penalties. Absolutely. That's the other thing is he's got to stay out of the penalty box. You can't do a good job defensively if you're sitting on the bench the whole time, right? So it's not like he's even getting that opportunity. And furthermore, you can't fix your defensive woes by scoring when you're sitting on the bench. So for me, there's just a lot more room for growth for Kevin. I wish I could say I'm optimistic about it, but he's been with the Sharks for quite a while now, and I think it just is what he is at this point. I don't know that he's going to break the 50-point barrier. I think that you're optimistic, and I like that. but I just don't know that he's that guy who's going to break that 50-point barrier. And part of the reason is if they don't end up trading him, they will have traded other pieces around him, and the guys that he's going to be playing with will be that much farther off and that much more of a blender, right? He has to get used to new people once they go through that whole trade deadline purge. So I just don't see him getting quite all the way to 50. 40 I could see perhaps, but I just don't know about 50. So I don't know. Are you fairly optimistic? I don't know. If you gave your take on this one, do you think he's going to hit the 50?
I think he will. I think what I've seen, if he's consistent and stays how he's been the last couple weeks, I've noticed in the last week's worth of games, maybe 2 weeks worth of games, his skating has improved in terms of, you see, like I'll compare him to Nico Sturm. Nico Sturm, every shift is sprinting out there after every puck. And to me, I feel like I've noticed Kevin Labanc doing the same thing on the forecheck and the back check. He is skating, completing his skating. He's no longer coasting. So you remember the controller disconnect? Mm-hmm. We're not seeing that anymore. At least I'm not. I'm seeing more. He's skating through to the end and putting in more effort. So that kind of like, there was a handful of plays that I saw where I was like, wow, I'm not used to seeing Labanc work that hard to get the puck back. I was impressed. And it worked. Then he turns around and goes back and takes it to the offense. So as long as he keeps doing that, and like you said, it depends on the pieces that if and will get moved eventually and who he's going to be stuck with towards the end of the season. But I think he breaks that 50-point barrier. I mean, his pace right now is 48, but that's overall pace from start to right now, where in the beginning he started off slow and now he's hot. Now, granted, he can go on a cold streak. I'm not expecting him to stay as hot as he is now, but I think he's picked it up enough where he would break. I mean, it's only a 2-point difference, right, of his pace right now. I think he's going to be on the hotter side, not the cooler side.
I think I might change my mind, and here's why. As we said, some pieces might get moved around. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be stuck on the same line that he's on. He might get bumped up. So he might be playing with better talent than he's playing with now. So who knows? It'll still take time to adjust to new line mates. But if it's, him playing alongside Logan Couture, I mean, he's played with Couture for pretty much his entire career. So I'm sure that would be an opportunity for him, more so than a detriment to his ability to get to 50. So yeah, maybe I'm with you now, especially if they make some trades. Maybe he ends up finding himself higher up in the lineup. So there you go. It's you get a whole lot of everything here on the Fin Factor, folks. Anyway, we want to talk about Tolvanen. But before we do, I'm going to say a couple things. One, again, if you guys can hit us with that share, that retweet, you hit the like button if you're enjoying this stream, would really appreciate that. But we're going to talk a little bit about Mike Grier and his brother. Aaron, you saw something on Instagram here. I'll let you talk about that. And then right after that, guys, stick around because we're going to talk a little bit about Eli Tolvanen from Nashville Predators getting put on waivers. But first, Aaron, go ahead, take it away about the brothers Grier.
The Dolphins are in LA tonight playing the Chargers, and the Dolphins GM is Chris Grier, which is brother to Mike Grier. And I think it's the first time we've ever seen any kind of family have two GM positions in different sports at the same time, which is really cool. So the Dolphins put out this picture of both brothers enjoying. This is at a practice. So I think it's Mike on the left and his brother Chris on the right. And it's pretty cool. Like it's actually Miami Dolphins and the San Jose Sharks, because now you can collaborate on Instagram. So they both put it out there, but really cool to see. Happy for both of them. And I actually did not look at the score, so I don't know if the Dolphins got smashed tonight or if the Chargers got smashed. So I don't know who won the game. But cool. And I don't know why the Dolphins were in town. It's funny. They were in town against the Niners the week before. So curious, maybe Grier was on the road or something. He wasn't in town, or maybe his brother didn't come out here for that game because they played the 49ers last week here in Santa Clara. But either way, pretty cool to see your brother and hang out. I mean, I get to see my brother in the show every time, so that's pretty cool.
You guys aren't quite GMs of your respective teams,
right?
Though.
Yeah, not quite the same, right? Yeah. My brother likes to make me a little bit smaller.
Yeah. Just trying to show you who's boss. Peter St. John says the Dolphins got smashed.
Oh,
Well,
there you go.
Smashix, but I think he meant smashed.
This is my my first year of not playing fantasy football since I think it started in 2005 for me. So I am like so out of it on the NFL, other than the Niners. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I get to focus on one team now.
Yeah, I pretty much watch Sharks hockey, and that's about it. I told my wife, "You have no idea how lucky you are," because that's it. There's no other. There's no baseball. There's no basketball. There's no football. There's nothing else. So there you go. Okay, Aaron, am I saying it wrong? Eli. There's two E's. It's throwing me off.
I'm gonna say it's Ely.
Ely.
It's Finnish. He's from Finland.
Because he's Finnish, you got to make the I sound like an E. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, Eli Tolvanen.
Yes.
There you go. Okay.
Oh, I can't lie, it was, a lot last, month, and
Oh my God. It gets me every time, man. Every single time. So anyway, Eli Tolvanen from Nashville. They put him on waivers. Now a fair amount about this guy. 2017 first round draft pick. He was 30th overall. Talk to me about him. What kind of player is this guy? He's all defense, right?
No, absolutely not. He is all offense. He's I don't want to say he's another Kevin LeBanc, but it kind of seems like he is another Kevin LeBanc. I'm going to read the two quotes from his draft year. So this is what the scouts had said about him. Elusive with the puck on his stick, likes to shoot, and has an impressive accurate shot with an absolutely deadly release. He has a full arsenal of quick release snapshot, a powerful wrist shot, and an accurate one-timer on the power play. Granted, this is when he was drafted, not like recently, but it does translate to the NHL level. The problem is he's pretty much been in the doghouse in Nashville. It's kind of cool. I was looking through his history here and his line mates that he had in the beginning of the year, because he was playing in Nashville in the earlier beginning of, let's say a year ago, right? He was playing with Luke Cunnin on his team, on his line. So he has experienced a lot of ice time with Luke Cunnin. So it'd be interesting if the Sharks did put a claim on him and picked him up, because him and Cunnin were teammates and line mates. And I don't know if they were roommates on the road. That's quite possible that they could have been, but that could be an interesting pickup by the Sharks if they pick this guy up. Now he's only 23. He's pretty young. He has another year left on his contract, but it's only at $1.45 million, and he's an RFA after that. The Sharks, on the other hand, they have according to Cap Friendly, as of right now, they have 49 of 50 contracts, so they could pick him up. They have room for him. The cap space, though, is a little bit different. They do have enough. They have $2.3 million in cap space, but they would have to send some people down. And I think somebody had quoted, or who was it, Tyler?
Yeah.
Tyler
at
earlier.
9:08 p.m. Had said they just sent down Cicek, Cease, and Svechnikov. So if you remember, Svechnikov actually had to clear waivers, I think, right?
Maybe they have room. And now the rule for waivers, if you pick somebody up off of waivers, they have to be in your lineup. You can't send them to the minors. You can't bury them or whatever and just stash them for later. They have to play on your team, and I think they have to play on your team for 30 days. I think that's the rule. And if they don't, then they go back to the team that you claimed them from. So that's why we don't see too many people get claimed up to waivers, because you have to put them in your lineup. So they can't just be, freely moved around like that. So, and they have to play in your lineup for a while. Someone could double check on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what the rule is. And that's why you don't see it very often. And GMs don't like to have 50 of 50 contracts on their team either. So then it kind of limits them on making moves later, which the Sharks will most likely be doing. So I don't know if they'll pick him up. I mean, we'll know this tomorrow. I think they announce it tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning or Tuesday. I don't know. But if they do pick him up, it'll be a good thing. I think the Sharks could absolutely use him in their lineup. Left-handed shot. If he was a right-handed shot, I would say absolutely. But he's a left-handed shot. But his elite NHL snipe ability would only help the Sharks. Now, his stats right now, I don't know if you looked at what his stats are. Did you look?
I have not, no.
13 games played. He has 2 goals and 2 assists. Not good. But his ice time is very low because he's in the doghouse with his coach. So maybe it's just new scenery. I mean, maybe they tried to trade him, they couldn't get anything, so they're sending him down to the minors. Just it's very interesting that Nashville will put him on waivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, it's only the 1.45 million, right? So I could see them adding, especially if they have 49 to 50. But like you said, most GMs want to have some contract wiggle room. They don't want to be at 50 of 50, right? They don't want to be at 49 of 50. So for them to pick him up, you would think that somebody would be immediately on the way out, if for anything else, just to have that comfort space. In terms of the amount of contracts and potentially for just a little bit of extra cap space, right? Now, you had likened him to Kevin Labanc, right? So at first I thought you meant he was a setup man. No, I'm just kidding. So I know having a guy that can shoot the puck is great. For me, this is maybe a little bit less like a Kevin Labanc. From a contract and player revival perspective. It's more like Oscar Lindblom for me from that perspective, right? This is somebody who maybe was having a rough time getting himself going in the NHL. And I feel like now the Sharks are kind of like reclamation project land, right? So it hasn't really worked out for Oscar here in San Jose. He's got, I think, 2 goals on the season now. But realistically, we were hoping for a lot more out of him. So I don't know if it's a good idea for the Sharks to take on another project. Really, he didn't work out really with Nashville. He's only had a handful of goals this year. I think 2 goals, 2 assists in the 12 something games played. So if it's not really working out with Nashville, it'd be hard to understand why it would necessarily work in San Jose. But like you've said, sometimes it's just a change of scenery. That's the only thing that's really needed. Maybe he's just not working out in that system. Maybe the system that Coach Quinn has going for the Sharks is more up his alley, or maybe the players that he'd be playing with potentially. Maybe a Logan Couture can feed him the puck better and get him the opportunity to take some shots. Maybe that second power play unit could do well with a guy like Tolvanen with that elite shot. So maybe it could work out. Who knows? The question is, do we really want to take that chance with the last contract spot that we have and the very minimal amount of contract cap space, I should say, that we do have? I just don't know that that's something that the Sharks would be interested in. Now, if you said, would the Sharks trade XYZ assets that just aren't working out anyway, almost like Demers and what's his name? Brendan Dillon, right? When that trade happened, right? That was a player for player, just a hockey trade, both defensemen. That was just, we need 2 guys to have a change of scenery, right? That's really all that was. Maybe that's the same thing that's happening here. And maybe a guy like Oscar Lindblom would do better playing in Nashville. Maybe a guy like Tolvanen would do better playing in San Jose. And now I'm not proposing that trade, but I guess what I am saying is maybe they do a hockey trade, right? Just a player for a player. It's not like we're trying to get one over on anybody else. We're trying to get a specific value. We're just trying to give these 2 guys a change of scenery because they're not working out here for either organization. Let's just swap players. Maybe that's a good way to go. I don't know. But I think to just make the claim for him and not give anything up in return, I just don't know that the Sharks really want to go that route. So I don't know how you feel about it, but that's kind of my thoughts. Do you think this would be a good idea for them, given the contract situation, given the cap space, and given that, they've got other players that that they probably should have moved by now?
Well, he is only 23 years old, so I would take him over Kevin Labanc, and he just, there's less money involved. His contract is way better. He's still very young and can turn things around. I think it is a situation where he needs a new change of scenery kind of thing. Debbie just asked Aaron, why is he in the doghouse? I think it's because he doesn't play the 200-foot game, similar to Labanc and his issues, where he's just not playing a full game. He's more focused on offense than he is on defense, and that hurts the team. Now, coming onto a Sharks team that doesn't care about defense as much, maybe he can turn it around and he could start scoring some goals for the Sharks. Who knows? He was scratched 7 of the last 9 games or something like that. So He definitely is in the doghouse with the coaching staff, and his ice time is just plummeted. So I just found this on Twitter too. So Chris Johnson of TSN had reported placed on NHL waivers today. This is Nathan. He is from JFresh Hockey. He does these charts, and this is amazing. And he wrote, Preds just gave someone a free Christmas present because it shows you kind of the potential of what he could be here. And this is like basically a top 6 winger in the making. Maybe not quite, but doing it. You know what I mean? So I would take him. I would absolutely add him to the Sharks. There's nothing here to lose, in my opinion.
All right, so you take the guy, huh? You know what I do like is that he would be an RFA still, so you can kind of control that after the fact. So that's. I'm sorry. Did you had mentioned that? I don't know if you made that a point.
I did.
My bad.
That's right.
I can only hear so much of you sometimes.
I know. I drone on and on and on.
You know what's funny is if we're done talking about this, Peter St. John says doing the Jaromir Jagr without the elite scoring tough. I think he meant though. We are going to talk about Jaromir Jagr. Do you want to talk about Jagr now, or is there anything else about Tolvanen?
No, I think I mean we'll find out about Tolvanen by tomorrow. I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. If something happens to Tolvanen, I'm sure. Again, we don't break the news, but we certainly like to send it back out there into the Twitterverse and whatever else. So if you're following us on Twitter, which is up in that corner over there, then feel free to well, if you're not following us, then feel free to follow us, and then you'll get those tweets and stuff that we send out as well. So there you go. It's like you two are married. Oh, I don't know about that. Yeah, if something happens with Tolvanen, we'll absolutely send it out and let you guys know. However, this is a weird topic, Aaron. Jaromir Jagr. I feel like we're making old, outdated references when we talk about Jaromir Jagr, but apart from being old, he's certainly not outdated. Dude is still playing. He actually, like you said, he's not really playing. He owns the team, but they had so many people get sick. Tell this story, buddy.
So Jaromir Jagr is from the Czech Republic. He lives there now. He owns one of the teams in the Czech League. He hasn't played in the NHL since 2017, but he's about to turn 51 years old. He owns this team, and a lot of the players got sick, and so he had to suit up, and he had to play. So he played in the game. He played over 15 minutes in the game and got 2 assists. Now, they lost 7-3, but he got 2 assists of those 3 goals. That's amazing. And I actually, there's a video of it, too, of him playing. It's just incredible. He is simply amazing. Now, it's funny because he played in this game, he is not eligible to go into the Hockey Hall of Fame until 2026 now because he keeps playing in a professional league, and it pushes back the date. So Jaromir Jagr will never get inducted into the Hall of Fame because he's constantly playing. He's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to get in, but this pushes it back because all of his team that he owns got sick, and so he had to jump in and play. It's
going to be 6 years after he dies that he'll finally get inducted into the Hall of Fame.
It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy.
The ageless wonder.
So he had 2 assists. They had illness running through the team that already forced him to postpone a game, so he jumped in the lineup. That's the whole reason. It's fantastic. It's a great story. I love Jaromir Jagr. He is a fantastic follow on Twitter. He also refuses to get the blue check mark. So it looks like a fake account, but it's actually him. It makes it even funnier. It makes it Jagr is just one of those guys, one of those characters, man. He's like Joe Thornton, just an absolute character of the game that has bizarre, crazy stories throughout his entire life.
That would be cool to get an all top character line or something like that. Joe Thornton, Jaromir Jagr, Pavel Datsyuk.
They'd be laughing. They'd be laughing the whole time.
Bunch of goofy, funny dudes, just top of their game. Oh my goodness. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Debbie, echoing your sentiments there, bud. You know what? Noah, actually, before we get to the last bit here, Noah brings up something that's pretty interesting. He says, I think you guys should do a segment about top 5 prospects in the draft, hoping for Bedard, but trying to be realistic since Anaheim decided to play like a dumpster fire. Thank you for that analogy, Noah. So, we were talking about this, and there's somebody that frequents the show who is very into prospects and that kind of thing. And so, I don't know if we want to necessarily call that out right now, but that's something that Aaron and I have been kind of spitballing, maybe bringing somebody else onto the show for a segment just like that, Noah. So, if we do decide to do something like that, absolutely we'll be putting it out there, letting you guys know. But I think that would be very interesting, and it would be interesting to see what the other prospects look like. I think it's always the case where the top guy in the draft, right? Like the Austin Matthews, the Connor McDavids, even Jack Eichel, he was number 2, but and then of course a guy like Bedard, right? Seeing these guys and you look at them and you kind of go, yeah, these are the top prospects. These are the best ones. These are the ones we want. But then like number 2, 3, 4, and 5 are actually still really good, but nobody knows about these guys, right? So yeah, I think it would be absolutely great to do a segment just around that. Now, we might not do something like that until later on, like maybe closer to the draft where it's more relevant, especially since all the rankings coming in would change up until that point in time, right? Because players do better or worse and their draft rankings go up and down accordingly. So maybe we would wait for that. But Aaron, what do you think? Is that something that we ought to do for these guys here?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and get something together. I think maybe right after New Year's, get kind of those top 5 guys on our radar and the names a little bit more familiar. Because I agree, I'm not hopeful for Bedard. And there you go. Fantilli, Michkov, Carlson are the top 4. But so many in the top tier talent. Absolutely. I think I don't want to settle on Bedard and get my hopes up because, knowing the Sharks, they're never going to have the first overall pick ever. And if they do, that's probably a pick that they had traded away years ago. So I don't want to look forward to that. But yeah, I think especially with this draft, everyone's excited about it because the top 5 are legit guys that most likely could play in the NHL starting next season at 18, 19 years old. So a lot of top talent to go around, and the Sharks are definitely going to be adding one of them to their lineup, which is what I'm excited for, which is why I don't care about this season and kind of want them to just do what they're doing, scoring 5 goals and losing 6-5 in overtime. That's exactly the kind of season I want to see. Entertaining hockey, but just not there. The results in the standings and adding a top player into their lineup.
Well, Aaron, if they could lose 6-5 in regulation, that would be better because the Sharks have a win percentage of .383, which is 3rd worst in the league. Only Chicago at .346, and the lowly Anaheim Ducks at .304, with only 1 regulation win, I might add, are actually worse than the Sharks. So yeah, the overtime losses negating that 1 point would have been better for the Sharks if that's what we're trying to do, right?
Anaheim made the Sharks look like a playoff team smashing a non-playoff team. They looked so bad. Things could be a lot worse. You could see a lot more blowouts, and we're not seeing those for the Sharks. It's great.
And for me, it's crazy because you look at a team like the Sharks, they've got big name talent on the roster still. Sure, there's lots of other names that are not quite there, but they still have, quite a bit in terms of offensive firepower and whatnot. And it just seems like they have, a good amount of veterans in there as well. But then you take a look at a team like Anaheim, they've got guys like, Zegras and this young talent pool that's kind of up and coming as well. Guys like Cam Fowler and all those. Even Gibson not long ago was, considered, top of the league. So it's like they have these guys and just everybody fell off and the young guys aren't quite getting it done. Now Zegras did score against the Sharks. He was the lone goal against the Sharks. So, good on him. But it's really interesting that a team like that, even like the Sharks, like I said, and the Ducks, they've got some names. It's just, there's so much parity in the league that, having just a little bit better of a mix is enough to push you all the way down the standings, right? So these are the worst teams in the NHL now: the Sharks, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Anaheim Ducks. It would not be out of the realm of possibility for the Sharks to get down to Bedard. But the way that it sits right now, even if they lose the lottery twice and 2 teams leapfrog them, I mean, it's top 5. And I guess that goes back to what we were talking about, that segment, having the top 5 prospects. We get to know all those guys. It'd be a good thing because you're definitely getting one of those 5, right? So anyway, just, it was interesting to see, how low the Sharks are right now. I guess I didn't quite realize that they were that far down the standings.
Yeah.
I guess when you see that they're like 2nd worst in the West, you think, oh, but there's probably teams that are worse in the East, but there's only one. So
I mean, we'll find out that Bedard is, I think, kind of falling out of favor as the first consensus overall pick. Fantilli and Michkov, I think, are kind of catching him. So we'll talk about that and get to know those guys. Because again, it'd be like Shane Wright. Shane Wright was, for all of last year, he's for sure the first overall pick. He's going to be the greatest, the top talent in this draft, and he went 4th overall.
Yeah.
So it could be a situation like that. So there's a chance that Bedard could fall. Who knows? But we'll go over that. One thing I forgot to mention way earlier in the show. We're going to go back a bit. Gadjevich is the game against Vancouver.
Oh.
Played against his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law happened to be the goalie. So here's a picture of them before the game. He's playing. Spencer Martin was in goal for Vancouver, and he's playing against him. And guess what? Gadjevich, on a complete individual effort, strips the guy of the puck, shoots it, and beats his brother-in-law. Can you imagine? Now, I was going to get a quote. I was like, oh, they had to have asked him about this. And they asked him about it after the game, and he's just like, oh, no. They're like, oh, did you like kind of rub it in, or did you like say anything? Was there extra motivation? And Gadjevich gave like such the generic, bland answer of like, no, I'm just here to win for the team and wanted to get 2 points and blah. It's like, come on. You know what I would have done? I would have skated, grabbed that puck, taken it home, wrapped it as a Christmas present, and given it to him at Christmas.
Wow.
That's the kind of guy I am. So my brother-in-law,
Good Lord,
we play soccer together. Imagine if we were playing on opposite teams and he was in goal and I scored on him. Absolutely, I would do that. You don't think that's funny? Come on.
No, it's hilarious. It's brutal, but it's hilarious. Would you sign it first at least?
Absolutely. Sign it with the date, the time, the exact time of the goal.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Well, you gotta have fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Life is fun.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, speaking of having fun, the Sharks are going to have fun. Hopefully, these next 3 games: Arizona, LA, Calgary. It's Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday. This is another one of those ones where we have a little bit of a break in between these games here. So the last week we only had the 2 games, and then this week we have 3, but it's Tuesday and then a stretch to Saturday. It's kind of a stark change from the previous week where we had 2 back-to-backs. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, well, we just talked about 2 weeks ago how the grueling schedule was just kind of killing these guys, and now they finally get these breaks in here, so it's good. Arizona is still just awful. I'm surprised they're actually higher than the Sharks in the standings right now. I bet that will start to change. I mean, they're barely above them. Points wise, the Sharks have 1 more point, but points percentage wise, Arizona actually has 4 games in hand on the Sharks, so they'll probably make up the difference there. They're at 431 win percentage versus the 383. And it's at home. It's Tuesday night against the Coyotes at home. There's going to be nobody at this game. Nobody. They have a hard time bringing people on Tuesday nights. I don't know why they don't try and change it with the NHL scheduling to get rid of the Tuesday night schedule. Just, I would rather go to a game on Monday night than a Tuesday night. I don't know. That's just me. Because Mondays suck no matter what. But it's going to be empty. It's going to be sad. It's going to be empty. Then they're playing the Kings on Saturday at home. Now, interesting thing about the Kings, they have Jonathan Quick. He's getting older. He's probably going to be retiring soon. I think this is his last year of his contract. They signed Peterson to an extension, I think before this season started. So it was the first year of his extension. I'm looking it up right now to see how much it is. $3.875 million. Not an insignificant sum to a backup goalie who's probably going to take over as your starter. He was performing awful, just playing dreadful. I mean, the Kings aren't great, but they're not terrible. He was playing awful. They put him on waivers this week, which is like, whoa, this is supposed to be your goalie of your future, and you put him on waivers. So they sent him down to the AHL level for a conditioning stint, but he has to clear waivers. And he did, because nobody probably wants that contract, and he's been playing poorly. But now imagine if he comes back and starts playing at an elite level. How many teams are going to be kicking themselves for not grabbing this guy off of waivers?
Hindsight's 2020. I don't know.
Yes.
You know what though? If you're that team that took a chance on him and it didn't work out, then
it just
are you kicking yourself? Absolutely. So I don't know. I think you take with what you know and you hedge your bets on that, right? You don't take what you think he could possibly be, even though the last thing that he's done is just play so poorly that he had to get put on waivers. It's a little bit different for me, right? So with a goalie, if he's not playing well, if he's not playing well, it's pretty evident he's missing very simple shots. He's not in the right position, that kind of thing. It's very different from a goalie who's jumping and stretching and trying to make spectacular saves because the defense isn't covering, right? So if he's truly that bad, I think we don't want to take a chance on this guy, right? Now, if they put him on waivers because his stats were horrible, but really you can look at it and blame the defense, yeah, okay, fine. Then maybe you take a chance on the guy. But I'm hoping that they know the difference between a goaltender who's not focused and not capable anymore, up to their standards at least, and the difference between that and the team around them not supporting well enough for them to be successful. I think they know the difference between that. So if they're putting their goalie on waivers, I'm standing back on that one. That's just me. So
I don't know. To me, I think it's a risky move on their part.
Oh, okay.
That's all. Whatever.
We have goalies, by the way, if they want one.
We're playing LA on Saturday and then a back-to-back against Calgary on Sunday.
Peter St. John says he's an e-bug in disguise. Going back to last episode with the e-bugs. I love it. Actually, as long as we're going back real quick, Peter St. John also wanted to know, did someone do that to you when you're playing goalie?
Oh, sign the
ball thing?
I could tell a funny story about that in college. I was playing against my buddy AJ. I'm sure you remember him from high school. He was playing at a rival college, and in the game, I got a pass back from my team, so I can't pick it up. And he's sprinting, dead sprint, coming straight at me. And I see him coming. I know he's coming. I have the ball to my right. I'm dribbling a little bit out of my box, and I see him, and I go to clear the ball, and I cut it back behind me and bring it back behind me, and he comes slide tackling in front of me to block it, and he basically just slides by me, and I just turn to go the other way, and everybody in the stands was just like, oh, because I just embarrassed the living hell out of him, and I was just like smiling, like, oh, that felt good, and he gets up and he comes by me and he walks by me and he goes, you do that again, I'm going to 2-foot you, and he meant it, like 2-foot you, meaning he's going to slide tackle and he's just going to take me out. So I couldn't do it again in the game. I had another chance in the game. I didn't do it. Later in that game, it came down. It was the last, 10 minutes of the game. And I think we were tied. And I had stopped him a couple times. And he's probably one of their best players too. Stopped him a couple times. And at this point, it's late in the game. I'm exhausted. He gets in on me in breakaway, basically, inside the box. And he beats me. And I was pissed because I was about to dive and block it, and I kind of second guessed myself and slowed up and stopped just enough to not get it, and he ended up scoring on me. And I mean, he at that time, like, we were really good friends and really close. And then during the soccer season, because we were on different teams, we just didn't hang out as much. But then afterwards, we come together and hung out, and we talked about both. So yeah, in a way, it was kind of like he was like, yeah, well, I scored one on you. I'm like, yeah, well, I pulled that ball back on you, and everybody just laughed at you, basically. Like, I think I won that one. I think so.
Nice.
But no signed balls or Christmas presents or anything. But, I guess kind of a similar story. Not quite the same.
Good stuff. All right. I think we are all done. Are we not?
Yeah.
We got to
hear more stories of soccer days.
Any last? Yeah, I know. We ended on a soccer story. How about that? That's a weird one. Any last second comments here? I know Debbie has said Peter Vlasic has always been one of my favorites, but it's time for him to go. Aaron, do you think that there's a market for Marc-Edouard Vlasic right now? I don't know based on the contract, but I wouldn't say that teams are necessarily against having a veteran defensive defenseman. Debbie had also asked a long time ago what his plus minus was because it looked like he had cement in his skates or something like that. He's actually a -6 on the season, which in all honesty is not bad for a team that's this bad. -6 isn't bad at all. So I could definitely see teams being interested in him. I just don't know the teams would be interested in him at the full $7 million. So maybe something would need to happen there, or a bad contract coming back the other way, something to that effect. Before you talk about that, Grandizer 12 says, Hey, Paul, Aaron, and I'm guessing Super Producer Jason's included in this. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and season greetings. Let's go Sharks. Hey, man, thank you so much. We do appreciate your comment there. That's pretty awesome. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you as well. And anybody who's listening, happy holidays to you. So, Aaron, what do you think about that then?
I think new coaching staff came in, and him and Shimmick, I think they've been given a fair bounce back opportunity, if you will. I think they kind of sat him down. I think Greer was kind of like, hey, you got to play for, something. So if you want to be on a new team, you got to play well so that I can make you make a trade. His trade, he has a no movement clause. Vlasic does.
Mm-hmm.
It changes after this season. So it's a full no movement clause, just like Carlson. But after the season, it changes to a 3-team trade list where he can go to. So he is 35 years old. He has 3 more seasons at $7 million. I don't know if it's movable. To me, he's playing like a $3 to $4 million second pairing defenseman. I think that's fair. So if they were to withhold, some of that money, I mean, that's dead money, but it's only dead money for 3 years versus buying him out, which I don't think is an option at this point. Buying him out would mean they're paying him for 6 more seasons?
Yeah.
So it's to me, I think withholding money is better than buying out players. But anyway, I think he is tradable. I think everybody is tradable. I don't think there's any contract that is not, because what if the Sharks get somebody back with the same kind of terrible contract? It's just a different player, just clearing space for the other team, and likewise, and giving Vlasic maybe a chance at a contender who, because Vlasic's going to want to get a cup. He's only got he's 35. So he's got maybe 4 years left, kind of like his contract, 3-4 years left in the NHL. He's going to want to get something. So similar to Burns, they're getting towards the end of their playing days, and they want to go to a contender. So absolutely, I wouldn't be surprised if Vlasic gets moved. I still think there's value there. Obviously not $7 million, but if they can make it around $3-4 million, I think it's there. Or take on a bad contract coming back the other way. I think it's doable.
Yeah, I think if the Sharks take on a bad contract with maybe like a year, 2 years left instead of the 3, just undercutting it just a bit. Doesn't have to be a $7 million contract. It could just be, a player that's a $4 million, $5 million, whatever else the case is, right? I think that wouldn't even be such a bad move. But I don't like the idea, like you said, of buying out, because I really don't like the idea of stretching, the bits that you owe him over, 6 more seasons. We're kind of already done that with other contracts, and I just don't like that that's still on the books. I like to keep that stuff off the books as much as possible. And again, I don't think he's a bad player. I really don't. I think he's a good player for what he is and for what his role is. Last season, I think he was kind of in the doghouse with Bob Bugner, and I think he probably had some stuff going on that we just don't know about. And I think this season is probably just a little bit different for him, and I think it's showing in his play. I think he's been better. Again, a -6 for a team that is, what we say, 0.383 win percentage. If you're a -6, you're not doing too bad there. So at least defensively. So I could definitely see the contract getting moved, especially since, again, he's the guy that's kind of in control of it. Like you said, he wants to go and win a cup too. I think he's under no delusion that the Sharks are going to be cup contenders anytime soon, at least within the confines of his contract, or the length of his contract. They're not getting back to the playoffs in 3 years. Well, maybe they will, but they'll still be, at the bottom of the barrel scraping to get in. So I don't know. I think he would gladly waive that if there was a team that was a contender that he was at all interested in. Having the opportunity to go there for not just this one season, but for the next 3 seasons and the rest of his contract, right? So I could definitely see him wanting to waive that and go somewhere. Now, there may have to be some finagling with the numbers, fine. But again, like you said, I don't think there's a contract that's not movable for the Sharks this season, and that includes the $11.5 million Erik Karlsson contract. So we'll see how that one goes. Thank you, Debbie, for posing the question. It was just a nice little thing to kind of end the show talking about there. So anyway, I think that kind of wraps up the show. I appreciate that. You said Pearson John says, yeah, on the Blue Line, Vlasic is not getting a lot of help from his partners. Yeah, probably not getting a whole lot of help, but again, I think when you look at the way he's been playing, at least, it's been kind of more up to par with what we expect out of him. So I think other teams are more than capable of seeing that as well. So, Aaron, unless you've got anything else, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here.
Let's wrap it up.
Okie dokie. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We do appreciate having these live shows with you guys. If you like the show, please hit the like button. If you are not subscribed, there is a little button there. It actually says subscribe on it. And if you click it, you become subscribed. Congratulations. Right next to that, there's a little bell. You hit that. It's a notification bell. Lets you know when we are going live or when we have new videos coming out. We haven't done a recorded video in a long time. Perhaps we will. But for the most part, we do the lives. And since they are live, it's kind of time sensitive. So when you get that, come in and talk to us, please. Okay, that'd be awesome. In any case, sorry. There's also again, if you want to support the show, there's the super chat function. You can go ahead and do that. There's also Venmo at the Fin Factor. Again, if you put any comment in there, we'll go ahead and read it live on the show. Or the Venmo, we'll do it maybe the next show since it's kind of too late now. If you'd like to support the show, but you want to get something back for it in return, again, you can go to thefinfactor.com, check out all the hats, shirts, sweatshirts. I want to say canteens, water bottles, fanny packs, all the stuff that we have for sale there. So go ahead and check that out. It's a great way to support the show and get something back and to look cool in the process. So there you go. By the way, if you do that, please take a picture, send it to us because people buy stuff, but people don't think anybody buys stuff because we never get to show it off. So please do that. Aaron, anything else? Last second? You good? We're good?
Good.
Follow us on the socials. Appreciate that. For super producer Jason, I'm Paul.
And I'm Aaron.
And we will see you guys
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, check out our other content, especially interviews. You can interact with us directly through social media at The Fin Factor and on Instagram at Fin Factor. And don't forget to join our live streams on YouTube.
Visit our website at thefinfactor.com, where you'll find all of our episodes as videos or podcasts. You'll also find our exclusive merchandise to help support our show.